Okay, continuing with number 18. Find the volume and surface area of a sphere with a radius of 8. So the equation for the volume of a sphere is 4/3 times pi times the radius cubed. The equation for the surface area is 4 times pi times the radius squared. Remember, cubed is a volume and squared is a surface area. So what is our radius is 8. So 4/3 times 3.14 times 8 cubed. And let's find out what that is. 4/3 times 3.14 times 8 cubed is equal to, okay, so the volume is 2143.6. And then the surface area, 4 times 3.14 times the radius squared, which is 64. So 4 times 3.14 times 64 is 803.84. So volume, surface area, whatever the units are, inches, close enough. Okay, number 19. So this is just using the calculator to find the ratio. Now, sine of 60. Okay, so we have the angle. What we're looking for is the ratio. So in our calculator, we use the normal sine. Sine 60 is square root of 3/2, which is 0.866. So this is the angle, and this is the ratio. So the next one is cosine of 35. Cosine 35. So that is 0.819. And what's the last one? Tangent. As a tangent. Oh, tangent of 45 is 1. So tangent is the opposite over the hypotenuse. And let's draw this out real quick so you can see how this works. Make sure, just in case you didn't know. So if this angle is 45, this angle up here has to be 45 as well, because these two angles have to add up to be 90. So that means that, well, there's a couple of different ways we can look at this. This is an isosceles triangle because the base angles, if I turned it around this way, like that, the base angles are the same, so therefore these two sides are the same. Now, because these two sides are the same, it doesn't really matter what they are, because if it's this divided by this, which is what tangent is, opposite over adjacent, if they're the same, it's just going to be 1. So the tangent of 45 is 1. That's not a bad one to remember. But if you don't, that's okay. Type it in your calculator and it'll give you 1. Okay, so let's move. So now we're given the ratio and we're looking for the angle. So the first one is the tangent of A is equal to 1. So that means that the arctangent of 1 is equal to Type that into your calculator. It's the same thing we just got done talking about. So that must lead me to a 45-degree angle. And so the next one is the sine of A equals 0.5. So that's going to be the arc sine of 0.5 is equal to, I type that into my calculator, and I get 30 degrees. Now, here's the one that can be a little tricky, because what we have is we have the cosecant of A is equal to 2. Okay, so we need to go back in our notes, and we need to realize that cosecant means the inverse of sine. Okay, it seems like it's one of those things in math that seems like it should be one thing, but it is the other thing. It seems like it should be the inverse of cosine. Cosecant seems like it should go with cosine, but it's one of those things that's kind of the opposite of what you think it should be. So the inverse of cosecant is sine. The inverse of secant is cosine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this. I'm just going to change this to 1 over the sine of A. This becomes 1 over the sine of A is equal to 2. So let's do some algebraic manipulation here. 1 is equal to 2 times the sine of A. Divide both sides by 2, and I get 1/2 is equal to the sine of A. So I have the ratio, and I'm looking for the angle. So I would type that as the arc sine of 1/2 or 0.5. And that just so happens to be the same thing we had up here. I can write it as a fraction, or I could write it as a decimal. It doesn't matter. But the result is going to be the same. That is a 30-degree angle. Ta-da. Okay, so number 21. Okay, find the angle of each one. So once again, we're going to be given the ratio, and we're going to be looking for the angle. So let's see here. We have 8 here, 3 here, and this is the reference angle we're talking about, angle 1. So if this is the reference angle, this is the opposite side, and that's the hypotenuse. So sine is equal to sine of, we'll call it angle 1, is equal to 3 over 8, which means the arc sine of 3 over 8 is equal to the angle. Now, you can go ahead in your calculator and take 3 divided by 8 and find that decimal and use the decimal if you want. Or you can, if you have a fraction bar, or you can just use parentheses. So I would say first arc sine, fraction bar, 3 over 8, or parentheses 3 divided by 8, then end the parentheses. And that is 22 degrees. So that angle 1 is 22 degrees. See, now the other triangle. Oh, wow, I'm getting worse and worse at drawing those. So this is once again my reference angle. We have this side as 5 and this side as 7. So with my reference angle right here, I have the adjacent side and the opposite side, so that is a tangent function. So the tangent of angle 1 is equal to 5 over 7. So to find the angle, I say the arc tangent of 5 over 7. So the arc tangent (35.5 degrees). 35.5 degrees. And that looks good for this one. We're right at 10 minutes.